baby bus.
Let's go, Sheriff Labrador!
The Kidnapped Moocas, Part 1. One day, a stealthy-looking animal wearing a hat and a face mask sneaked up to and knocked on Moocas's door.
Who's there?
Oh, hi, Moocas. I'm your third auntie's nephew's uncle's little cousin's neighbor.
The animal introduced himself with a slightly malicious grin on his face.
I came here to bring you a gift. It's kind of heavy. Can you open the door and take it?
A gift? Yeah! What's a gift?
The animal covered Moocas's mouth as soon as he opened the door, then picked him up and ran, quickly disappearing at the end of a nearby alley. An hour later, a loud, pitiful cry interrupted the silence of the Forestville police station.
Oh, help me! Someone has kidnapped my son, Moocas. Please, Sheriff Labrador, Officer Doberman, help me find my son, please.
Mr. Bull, the owner of Bull's Burgers, rushed into the police station and grabbed Sheriff Labrador's hand, wailing.
What? Kidnapped? Don't worry, Mr. Bull. We'll head out to the scene of the crime right now and check it out.
Mr. Bull led Sheriff Labrador and Officer Doberman to his house immediately. He cried and pointed to a screen that showed home security footage installed just outside his house.
Sheriff Labrador, this guy took my son. I was cooking in the kitchen and realized that I had run out of ketchup, so I went to my next-door neighbor's house to borrow some. When I came back, Moocas was nowhere to be found. Then I pulled the security footage from outside our house and saw...
In the footage, a figure dressed in black with a hat could be seen talking to Moocas through the door. No sooner had Moocas opened the door than the figure grabbed him and ran off.
Wait, whoever took Moocas said he was...
Moocas's third auntie's nephew's uncle's little cousin's neighbor? Hey, now that's a little confusing. But nothing I can't handle. Lab, I think I know who took Moocas.
Who is it?
Curious, Sheriff Labrador and Mr. Bull both looked at Officer Doberman. Officer Doberman rolled back his shoulders and puffed up his chest confidently.
The kidnapper is a neighbor of a distant relative of Moocas. Hey now, the guy said himself he was the neighbor of a distant relative of Moocas.
We can't say for sure if Moocas was kidnapped by a neighbor of his distant relative. Maybe the kidnapper made it up to gain Moocas's trust. But I think the guy probably knew Mr. Bull. Otherwise, how could he clearly know that his son's name was Moocas?
What? It's someone I know? Then who? And why did he kidnap Moocas?
Mr. Bull's cell phone started to vibrate suddenly, interrupting his speech. The caller ID readout indicated that it was a call from an unknown number. Sheriff Labrador suspected that it might be a call from the kidnapper. Then he hinted to Mr. Bull to turn on the speaker.
Hello?
No sooner had Mr. Bull answered the phone than he heard a man who seemed to be holding his nose speak in a deliberately low-pitched voice on the other end of the line.
Listen up, Mr. Bull. I have your son. If you want your boy back, give me your special burger recipe for Bull's Burgers, or else you'll never see your son again.
Then Moocas's cries could be heard coming from the other end of the line.
Dad! I'm so scared! Help me!
Moocas! Don't worry, Daddy's gonna get you out of there!
On hearing Moocas's cry, Mr. Bull stamped his feet in desperation and fixed his pleading eyes upon Sheriff Labrador.
What should I do? What should I do now?
Sheriff Labrador quickly typed something on his cell phone and motioned for Mr. Bull to read out what he typed word for word in response to the kidnapper.
You said you want my special burger recipe? Okay, no problem. But first, I need to make sure Moocas is okay. First, record a video of Moocas and send it to me. And then I'll tell you the special burger recipe after I know he is safe and sound.
A video? Oh, right. Wait a second.
The kidnapper hung up the phone.
He wants my special burger recipe?
Something occurred to Mr. Bull after the fact.
Oh, now that I remember. Last week, Eland came to me and asked me to sell him my special burger recipe, but I turned him down. Oh, Sheriff Labrador, could Eland take my son?
Eland does sound like a prime suspect indeed. Come on, let's go to Eland's and check it out.
Sheriff Labrador, Officer Doberman, and Mr. Bull hurried to Eland's. On their arrival, Sheriff Labrador realized something was amiss. The doors and windows of Eland's house were all closed. Even the curtains were drawn tightly. They pressed their ears to the door and heard a noise coming from inside.
Stop crying!
Eland, don't you dare lay another finger on my son!
Before Sheriff Labrador could stop him, Mr. Bull kicked the door open and rushed into the dimly lit house. Then they saw Eland sitting on the sofa watching a movie to his own delight. Eland was so startled by Mr. Bull's sudden appearance that the popcorn slipped from his hands and spilled across the floor.
What are you doing here, Mr. Bull? Officer Doberman and Sheriff Labrador? I'm sitting in the living room of my own home watching a movie. That's not against the law, is it?
Oh, there was clearly a huge misunderstanding. Eland had been watching a movie on a projector, which is why the windows and doors were closed and the curtains were drawn shut. The crying and yelling that they had just heard were actually from the movie.
I'm sorry. I misread the situation.
Mr. Bull apologized to Eland immediately, and he gave Eland some money to make up for the damage he had done to his door.
Hey now, if it's not Eland, then who's the kidnapper?
Once again, Sheriff Labrador was lost in thought. Just then, Mr. Bull's phone rang loudly. The kidnapper sent the video message to his phone. In the video, Moocas was confined in an unfamiliar room, his body bound with ropes, his eyes red and swollen from crying. But luckily, he had no other injuries.
It's a good thing Moocas is unhurt. Huh? Hold on! That's